the part that I want to leave you with is we're doing a lot more in open source AI. I'm actually thinking probably the best way of doing that is to really understand that, I think Andy talked about it, there's even not a clear definition as to what open source AI is. From a big tech perspective, from a really economic perspective, open source AI really has the potential to democratize what's potentially a quite locked in play. With my LF Europe hat on, I clearly am exposed to a lot of the geopolitics aspects of open source AI. Is Europe gonna, catch up? There's a lot of startups in Europe, Mistral being obviously the most noticeable one, Hugging Face, arguably whether it's American or European, but there's certainly a big bet made by Europe on sort of catching up on not missing another big tech wave, if that makes sense. And there's obviously implications on responsible and social, sort of civil society. Is open source AI going to help us making sure that we harness the power of AI? Andy talked about that a little bit before. We don't even know what open source AI is, and that means that some companies have been using this label a little bit too loosely, whether willingly or unwittingly. Maybe open washing is a little bit of a strong word here, but we're quite familiar with taking the goodwill brand the goodwill that the open source brand built and using it for marketing purposes. As Andy hinted to, the OSI is defining what open source AI means. And actually, we're close, not yet there, but later this month, the definition should be out. And so we all will have a reference, because the reality is, it's not that simple. AI is not just code. It is code, it is data, it is documentation. Each of these, over 15 potential components that make an AI system, a Gen AI system, could have their own license. And so how do we define open source AI? Which brings me to one of the roles that I think the Linux Foundation has, going back to trust, as the largest shared investment in the world and home of so many existing technologies and AI initiatives. We have our Gen AI Commons, we have our LFAI and data. It behooves us to help the community understand and get open source AI right. You understand now the economic, geopolitical, and social implication of what open source AI can do, and so we gotta make sure that we help the community. And in fact, earlier in the year, we released the model openness framework. Again, we're looking forward to the OSI definition, but we needed to advise our communities as to what is open source. And this is a gradient. It's not a binary approach. It uses principles of open science, and really based on all those different components and their underlying licenses, really tries to plot existing models as to whether they are open science, open tooling, or open model, different degrees of openness. In fact, if you go to isitopen.ai, you'll find already many of these models being evaluated. And again, the idea is to provide consumers with clarity on is it a model actually open? So just to wrap, and I know we're eating into the break, so no offense if you want to go get a coffee, but it's not just about readiness. We have been working hard throughout the year to build an organic community and set up the structures to identify pre-competitive use cases. I think Prachi said it well. There are use cases that I believe we believe they are pre-competitive, and they all make sense for us to collaborate on. To build strong connections with the academic community that has really stepped up in building POCs, tools, benchmarks. There's so much activity right now in FINOS Labs, our innovation space. We're looking to actually structure and accelerate with the idea of building a research fund. This is not a space where we can move slow. And so whether it's sweat equity, whether it's actual money that can help us accelerate all of these activities, this is something that we are actually looking at very closely, and I'd love to talk to you in the next few hours if you're interested. Just to understand what this very organic, very grassroots exploration has come out with. These are just some examples, there's so much more, but later today there's a workshop on using Gen AI for the CDM digital regulatory reporting use case. A RAG was implemented on the CDM documentation that technically should allow, again, this is a POC, but it should allow to map virtually any asset class into the CDM standard. Our project OS Climate has a data commons, a data mesh that really can provide a basis for more advanced data sharing type use cases. Again, we fully know that not all the data will be shared, but for these pre-competitive use cases, there are technologies that allow it to do it safely, and one happens to be a FINOS project under OS Climate. And this is one that I'm really excited about. Everyone, this industry is quite of a competitive bunch, I always say, and so we've been partnering with the FinAI organization, Databricks, the AI for Finance Foundation, lots of researchers at the Columbia University, to actually start building a benchmark for open source LLMs that is focused on the financial services use cases. And we actually have a leaderboard on Hugging Face. This is our first, I guess, step towards Hugging Face. It's not yet under the FINOS organization, but we'll make it there soon. It's actually pretty non-competitive if you think about it. If we as an industry come up with the use cases that we want to test, the financial tasks that we want to test these models against, that's code. So we don't have to get into this whole data sharing or what even is open source AI. This is good open source code, and allows us to compare apple to apples. A lot of those models make sense from a consumer perspective. What is that would address your use cases better? And so I'm going to leave you with that. The idea moving forward for our LLM exploration, AI exploration, we're broadening, is not just about LLMs, is to really structure this governance and fund it. We have 3-4 members that have expressed interest. And the kicker to me is you all have innovation programs, especially with on the academic side. And all these financial institutions are in dire need of AI talent. It's in high demand. Pooling our resources and making sure that the output of this research is not only aligned to use cases that you all care about, but that is actually open source, especially when we know in a couple of weeks what open source AI means, will create, I think, a much compounded value rather than continuing in the silo and have individual investments in sort of academic programs and and even individual contributors. This is not just about academics. We have so many startups and innovators that have joined the conversation. So if you are interested, please reach out to, you got Luca's picture, Luca's here, but you can also reach out to me if you're interested to help us fund and accelerate this work. And we got still the QR codes here for the AI Readiness SIG. Go check out, and please give us feedback on the new release of the AI Readiness SIG. And of course, you don't have to fund participating and contributing to the AI exploration. You can do it with scanning the QR code in the middle. I know we are awfully late, but I hope we gave you an idea of how anyone really can really impact this exciting new course of open source AI. And just to wrap, we have a great program for the rest of the day, but actually the FINOS week doesn't end today. Later this week on Friday, we will be part of the Grace Hopper celebration. We have an open source day. Paula Paul, one of our ambassadors, really made sure that FINOS had a whole day to really show why it makes sense for anyone, an inclusive and diverse, what an inclusive, diverse community we are. So I hope you're familiar with Grace Hopper Celebration by Anita B. If you scan the QR code, you'll see the program that FINOS is hosting on Friday. I'm actually staying all the way on Friday to give my keynote virtually. I'm not going to be there in person, but I hope you can tune in. It's all streamed online, and we're very excited to be there. Now, that actually brings us to the end of morning programming. Don't go away. One of my favorite parts of this conference is the award ceremony at 4:25 p.m. to close the day, awarding amazing individuals and amazing members that supported us and contributed to the foundation this year. And as Madeleine said, around lunch and before we have a networking session, we have an amazing DI lunch keynote. So thank you so much. I hope you found this interesting, and I hope you have an amazing day and get inspired. Thank you so much.